Let's check the sound, if it's working or not. Okay. It's perfect. Так, Так, проба пера, еще одна проба пера. Подскажите, пожалуйста, хорошо ли слышно?
Да, слышно, все хорошо.
Замечательно. Ну, я думаю, что нам и с этого компьютера, да, прекрасно слышно выступающих. Замечательно. Да, чтобы эхо не было, для нас это важный момент. Okay, so once again, I'm glad just to congratulate you with this day. Today, that's for somebody, that's the first time you will have your presentations during the conference. So, and we are glad to congratulate you just on this day with your participants in the international conference of functional aspects in intercultural communication and the problems of translations. So we have the fifth section. So please show us, the fifth section in our slideshow. Here it is. A second. Thank you so very much. So our section, the fifth section, is actually devoted to the functional approaches of intercultural communication and interpretation issues. And just we are gladly introduce our first presenter, our first participant, Елизавета Zankova and Milana Krasotskaya, Teenager Slang, Translation in Modern English. Okay, that's the offline format of presentation. So let us cover all of the technical nuances. Okay, come here. And just please take a seat. Okay. So, now we're ready to start.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые слушатели! Сегодня мы поговорим о переводе молодежного сленга современного английского языка. Как известно, сленг российской молодежи охватывает практически все сферы жизни. В основном он сосредоточен на взаимоотношениях с другими людьми. В настоящее время сленговая лексика относится к наиболее подвижному и изменчивому сегменту языка, а потому требует постоянного внимания со стороны лингвистов, лексикологов и переводчиков. Более того, сленг интересен не только с точки зрения лингвистической теории, но и с точки зрения теории перевода. Целью данного исследования было выявление основных сленговых ходов и трудностей при переводе подросткового сленга. Для достижения этой цели были предоставлены следующие задачи: изучить способы перевода сленга, найти сленговые выражения повседневной жизни подростков, проанализировать эквивалентность оригинальных и переводных высказываний. Постоянные задачи потребовали применения следующего набора методов: сравнительного, контекстуального, количественного анализа. Каждый из этих методов преследует свои цели: показать общую потребительную сленговую подростковую лексику, общие способы адаптации иностранного сленга в русском языке, разницу между распространенным и известным подростковым сленгом, основные причины возникновения сленга и общие места употребления. Сленг можно разделить на различные группы: профессиональный сленг, региональный сленг, подростковый. Но в настоящее время, в связи с бурным ростом интернет-сообщества, особенно актуальным является рассмотрение интернет-сленга. Его можно определить как вид сленга, который популяризовали во многих случаях и придумали пользователи интернета. Сленг можно разделить на различные... Из этого следует, что сленгом является форма языковой разновидности, под которой понимается любая различимая форма речи, используемая говорящим или группой говорящей. Лингвистические особенности речевой разновидности могут быть обнаружены на лексическом, фонологическом, морфологическом и синтаксических уровнях языках. В последние несколько десятилетий темпы развития отдельных сфер в общественной жизни многократно ускорили по сравнению с предыдущими периодами. Эти процессы вызвали определенные изменения в лексикологии стран, поскольку язык неотделим от культуры. Все события, которые охватывают общество, влияют на развитие неформального общения, получают отклик в языках мира, пополняют современный словарный запас новыми фразами и выражениями. Способы и методы формирования подросткового сленга разнообразны, но все они сводятся к тому, что английское слово адаптируется к русской действительности и становится пригодным для постоянного употребления. Одним из способов считается калька. Основан на грамматически неусвоенным русским языком. Слово берется целиком, включая произношение, написание и значение. Каждый звук в оригинальном слове заменяется соответствующим звуком в языке перевода с учетом фонетических законов последнего. Кроме того, ряд подобных слов в русском языке появился из-за того, что большая часть компьютерного программного обеспечения до сих пор не переведена, что приводит к привыканию людей к некоторым общим командам или сообщениям. Полукалька – это способ перевода при передаче термина с английского языка на русский. Последний подстраивается принятое слово под норму своей фонетики и грамматики, придерживаясь ее правил. Появление в русском языке английской пословицы «Curiosity killed the cat» – «любопытство сгубило кошку», которая используется наряду с традиционной «любопытной Варваре на базаре нос оторвали», связано с тем, что английская пословица используется в связи с наличием русских подобных выражений в переводных англоамериканских текстах. Аналоговый или ассоциативный перевод. Это также один из способов перевода английских профессионализмов. В процессе перевода задействован механизм ассоциативного мышления. Возникающие ассоциации могут быть самыми разными по форме предмета или механизма. Фонетическая мимикрия считается методом лексикологии, но также применяемый в переводе, основанный на совпадении семантических несхожих общеупотребительных слов английских терминов. Соответственно, слово, переходящее в сленг, приобретает новое значение, не связанное с общепринятым термином. К этому явлению относится и звукоподражание, без сходства со словом и стандартной лексики. Основные трудности молодежного сленга в большинстве случаев представляют собой английские заимствования или фонетические ассоциации. Это объясняется прежде всего неоднородностью или многократностью самого понятия сленга, а также отсутствием переводческого прецедента в данном пласте лексики русской интерпретации. Переводчику приходится сталкиваться также с отсутствием устоявшихся правил перевода этого языкового явления. Перевод подобного типа требует быть внимательным к контексту и передавать не только лексическое значение, но и стилистическую окраску, социокультурную сущность сленгового выражения. Сленг характеризуется специфической лексикой и выражением смысловыми нюансами, отражающей определенную социальную группу или субкультуру. Таким образом, он представляет собой сложную область исследования в контексте теории перевода. Подводя итог анализу сленговых единиц на основе современной повседневной подростковой речи, можно сделать вывод, что при переводе сленговой лексики на русский язык переводчики использовали такие приемы, как калька, полукалька, ассоциативный перевод, фонетическая мимикрия. Разнообразие переводческих приемов значительно расширяет возможность передачи смысла оригинала, его метафоричности. При отсутствии эквивалента или аналога языке оригинала переводчик может использовать ряд других приемов, соответствующих специфике дискурса, культурному и языковому контексту. Полученные в ходе исследования данные подтверждают предположение о широкой распространенности англицизмов. Сленг характеризуется специфической лексикой, выражениями и смысловыми нюансами, отражающими определенную социальную группу или субкультуру. Таким образом, он представляет собой сложную область исследования в контексте теории перевода. Спасибо.
Thank you so very much for your presentation. Dear participants, dear colleagues, do you have any questions? Silence. Okay, so let me ask the question. Is it more comfortable for you to speak in English? In English. Yeah. Okay, so which of the methods which you've covered in your presentation you suppose as the most efficient one for translations of the youth slang?
Actually, I suppose that the calcul, the first method of the translation of English slang, is more official and more convenient in our modern lexicology translations because there are many words which are in English having any equivalence with Russian. They are just reduced to the Russian lexicology.
Is it the one which is mostly used?
Yeah, it's mostly.
Is mostly used.
Yeah.
What kind of spheres just have you noticed this? I mean, just what were the materials of your research? Books, films, social nets, what are they? Journals, maybe?
It's always connected with social media, like the magazines, serials, teen serials, maybe, and also the chat dialogue. Maybe you can check that in Twitter or Facebook or in Instagram. There are too many slang words which teenagers are used.
And just have you estimated any kind of quantitative analysis? I mean, just statistics.
The statistics.
Yeah, just maybe some kind of percentage. How often is each of the methods is used in the translations?
So the first is a calculate is often used around maybe 70% of the translation slang words, but the least of these methods is phonetic mimicry. Because it's actually is not often used.
And just, do you plan to continue studies? Will you deepen this?
Actually, yeah.
What course are you in?
Yeah.
What course are you in just right now?
Second.
The second, so you have a long way. Can further on? Okay. Thank you so very much. So just do we have any questions? Let's ask our colleagues online. Dear colleagues, do you have any more questions here for our presenter? Thank you so very much. It was so interesting to see your presentation and just to cover these details of the translation of the used slang. Now, let's move on further. And just we invite this the third participant, Veronika Perkovskaya and Yana Alexandrovna Volkova. The role of translating phraseologisms for international communication and the material of the novel by Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings. Veronika?
Yes.
Okay, we are glad. Just a second. Let us. These are just technical moments because we have hybrid version of our section now, and we wish everyone to see you on our screen. Okay.
Okay.
Just yeah, but they won't see it. Unfortunately. Just a second. We are once again duplicating the screen. Okay. And the presentation itself, where is it? Here it is.
The second.
Yeah, we are demonstrating. Just a few seconds. We are
It's
demonstrating.
not my
screen.
work. It's
That's
not
not. Is it still downloading?
Yes.
So a couple of minutes, I guess. Maybe you can share your own screen in case.
It's my work. You show my work now.
Okay. So here it is.
Yes.
Here it is. So the slideshow is not working in such a way, right?
Yes. It doesn't work in white screen.
Now it will. Now it will. Technical things, the technical difficulties. Okay. Is it clearly seen? Just is it clearly understandable on the other side? I guess that's fine.
Yes, all okay. So can I start?
With great pleasure, we are listening to you. Please
Okay.
start.
Good afternoon, dear participants of the conference. My name is Perkovskaya Veronika, and today I would like to present my article on the topic The Role of Translating Phraseologisms for Intercultural Communication on the Material of the Novel by Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings. The second, please. The relevance of the comparative study of phraseological units in the original text Tolkien's novel and its translations into Russian and conditioned by the...
Technical problems.
Yes, maybe I can show my presentation on my notebook.
Let's make it this way. I guess it might be easier now. Okay, please. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So you may share the screen. It's in the just you may yeah. Now we're able to see you. Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so very much. Let's continue.
So I stop on the relevance. The relevance, I repeat again, because nobody doesn't see the information. The relevance of the comparative study of phraseological units in the original text of Tolkien's novel and its translations into Russian is conditioned by the general perspective of the comparative study of phraseological phrases. So phraseologisms are stable expressions that take on a specific meaning and often cannot be understood based on the literal meaning of individual words. Phraseologisms are an important part of the culture of any country. So, to analyze the translation of phraseologisms in fiction, Tolkien's novel *The Lord of the Rings* and its translation into Russian by Matorina were taken. For example, the hobbits, the main character of this novel, loved their land where they had to live and their homes. With the help of phraseological unit to fall in love, the reader can get into the mood and feel the emotions of the hobbits. At once, the Western hobbits fell in love with their new land and they remained there. This phraseological unit, fell in love, was translated using a descriptive technique. Matorina didn't use an equivalent translation, влюбиться, which is most likely due to the peculiarities of the semantic load of the verb влюбиться with the Russian language. So the next example is the image of the road appears many times in the novel. Various stylistic techniques are used by Tolkien to describe it. Phraseological units are also used for this purpose. So you step into the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there is no knowing where you might be swept off to. Phraseological unit to keep one's feet is translated using an antonymic technique to emphasize the severity of the translation and accelerating the perception of action in the moment. So, as the result, after analyzing the translation of several phraseological units selected randomly from the novel The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, it can be concluded about the prevailing ways of translating phraseological in the novel. The results of the study are showing in the figure. The figure shows that descriptive and equivalent translation method prevail, which is due to the translator's desire to convey the atmosphere and mood of the original text and make it understandable to the Russian person with their cultural values and concepts. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that the translation of phraseologisms in the novel The Lord of the Rings play a key role in creating a cross-cultural understanding and transferring the original meaning of the work to other languages. Of course, the second translators face the complexity of finding the appropriate expression that will preserve the strength and emotionality of the original text. And the main translation techniques are descriptive method, antonomy translation, transformation, and others. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so very much. That's a very interesting material for you to choose, especially the novel of Tolkien. And just can you define just small peculiar nuances? Like you've mentioned several phraseological units to be analyzed for your statistical analysis. The pie, which you've showed, here it is. Can you say how many of them have you taken for this analysis?
I took 6 phraseological units in my science work, but this work connected with my Finnish work. Sorry, I forget the word. Vaker.
Maybe with is connected with your course paper, right?
Course paper, yes. And I saw a lot of information, a lot of books which connected with the phraseological units. And but in this work, I use only 6.
Do you plan to enlarge your studies? I mean, your scientific research, because it's not only
yes, of
the
course,
novel is kind of big.
Yes, of course. To be honest, this work connect with me since bachelor degree, because I really love Tolkien and this novel. It's a very interesting novel for me, and when I read again and again this novel, I open for myself a lot of new interesting things, and for me it was very interesting to see how Tolkien used the language and how we can connect with the Russian language or maybe the other language in the future.
Is there the only one translation of Tolkien's novel, or there might be some more for you to compare them?
More.
Okay.
I used for translation on the Russian language. Of course, only on the Russian language, no more. It's, for example, Motorina, for example, Muravyov, and the others authors, which I used the book, which more popular than the different translation on the Russian language.
Maybe another aspect for you to cover, just maybe to compare these translations totally. I mean, just to present during the next conference the differences in translations in the Russian language. That would be very interesting for us to see.
Maybe I can do this. Thank you for your
Thank you so very much. Now, let us ask our colleagues and guests if we have any questions to our participant over this topic. A lot of enthusiasm today, I may see from you. Okay, thank you so very much. It was very intriguing and interesting. And just we hope to see you next conference with the deepening of your scientific research. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're moving on to the next participant, Sofia Kunitsina and Natalia Nepomniachtchik, peculiarities of a literary text translation from English into Russian, based on Gaiman's novel Caroline. Good afternoon, Sofia.
Good
Mhm.
afternoon, it's me.
As far as we understand, so you will demonstrate the presentation on your own, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, wonderful. So we are waiting for your demonstration of the screen.
I'm sorry, but how can
Uh-huh.
I do that?
Okay, so you have a menu at the top, and there is the sign. There is the sign where you can share the screen. Поделиться, поделиться. So you should push on this sign. Okay, let me describe it in the Russian language. У вас наверху меню. На этом меню вы видите камеру, микрофон и дальше поделиться. Нашли?
Yeah.
Нажимаем на поделиться. И там вы включаете поделиться и рабочий стол.
Okay.
Мгм.
Wait a second, please.
We're waiting. We're all yours.
Thank you. I'm sharing. I hope so. Oh, yeah. I got it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can, though not the presentation itself yet, but we're waiting for it.
Yeah. Here it is.
Mhm.
Can you see it?
Unfortunately, we're still waiting. We're still waiting.
I've shared it. Okay.
Мгм.
Let's try again.
Если, ага, now it's been downloading, I guess. Here we are. Now we can see it. So please enlarge it. Wonderful. Now we're ready to listen to your speech.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, dear jury, the topic of my research is peculiarities of a literary text translation from English into Russian based on Neil Gaiman's novel Coraline. Metaphor translation is one of the controversial and difficult fields of translation studies. Metaphors have drawn attention of linguists, philologists, philosophers, and other scientists since the time of Aristotle. Over these 2 millennia, people have accumulated enough knowledge and experience to adequately translate such a challengeable trope. Nevertheless, the world and linguistics ever advance and discover new aspects of metaphors. Therefore, they remain a relevant issue even to date. So, the object of the research is the literary text including metaphors, and the subject of this research is the translation transformations applying to metaphor translation from English into Russian in literary text. The material of the study is Neil Gaiman's novel Coraline. Okay, metaphor is a trope or speech mechanism. I have another definition on the slide and I have some other, but they are all correct. Metaphor is a trope or speech mechanism, a part of a word denoting a class of phenomena or subjects characterizing an object of another class. Metaphor is multifunctional and can perform communicative, nominative, instrumental, cognitive, pragmatic, aesthetic, and other functions. There are 2 common types of metaphors, genuine and trite. Genuine metaphors are metaphors that are used individually by an author. They are often used to highlight some important points and to catch the attention of the reader. Trite metaphors are metaphors that have lost their figurative character. They are often found when describing time, space, and some geographical destinations. Dead metaphors are usually registered in dictionaries. There are many classifications of translation transformations of metaphors. 3 of them offered by the Soviet linguists such as Kazakova, Komisarov, Barkudarov were taken under consideration as they have much in common. According to these classifications, there are 3 main categories of translation transformations: lexical, grammatical, and lexical-grammatical. Okay, lexical ones include addition, omission, concretization, generalization, and sense development. Grammatical transformations include replacement, transposition, segmentation, and integration. Full translation, full translation, remetaphorization, demetaphorization, compensation, and antonymic translation are components of lexical and grammatical, so the third category, transformations. Bakudarov believes that transformations rarely occur separately, more often they work together, creating more complicated transformations. Okay, here are some examples of using translation transformations for metaphors. The first category is lexical transformations. The first is addition. You can see Caroline stood there frozen. Каролина в ужасе застыла. The translators added the word combination в ужасе. Then sense development. Sharper than a serpent's tooth, she said, is a daughter's ingratitude. Больнее, чем укус змеи, ответила она, ранит дочерняя неблагодарность. So we understand that some snake's tooth, if a snake uses teeth, it bites someone. Okay, generalization, when we broaden the meaning, concretization, when we are narrowing the meaning. Then grammatical transformations, replacement, transposition, and integration and separation. I haven't used this example of separation in this presentation. Okay, lexical grammatical transformations, remetaphorization, demetaphorization. By the way, demetaphorization is the least desirable way of transformating metaphors, because we lose expressiveness of the text and some kind of sense when we use this type of transformations. Then full translation and antonymic translation. By the way, full translation is the most common, most frequent way of translation in my research. And conclusion. Empirically, it was revealed that the most numerous group is lexical grammatical transformations, accounting for about half of all transformations. It's noteworthy that there are frequent cases of demetaphorization, which many linguists consider undesirable when translating metaphors. And by the way, metaphors is multifunctional. I've mentioned many of these functions. There are lexical, grammatical, and lexical grammatical translation transformations to translate metaphors, and full translation is the most frequent translation transformation in the text. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so very much. Very deep research you are making now. Can you please just specify one question? You've just given us the examples of definitions of phraseologisms, or I'm sorry, of metaphors, and just you've chosen two different authors, as far as I understood, right? Just so whose definitions you have presented on the slide, and whose was the definition that you've announced? Because you told us that they are different, right?
Yeah. To tell the truth, I don't remember whose definitions these are, but I'm sure that these definitions belong to some popular linguists, maybe Kazakova. To tell the truth, I don't know them by heart, but
I like the surname. Okay, and just why have you chosen the different one to announce? Because just the only one you've put on the slide, and the other one you've decided to announce. Are they so different to just to for us to learn them?
no, they're not so different. Just I love both of them. That's all.
Okay, the difficult question.
I have my paper course, a course paper, I'm sorry, course paper, and I have several definitions in it. And this article is dedicated to this paper. So I took two of definitions to be more, I don't know how to say it, in order to be more relevant. I don't know.
Yeah, in order to rely upon this material. Just our recommendations for your defendants of the course paper. You may also just put on the slide while just presenting your definitions of some kind of terms. So you may put together with this definition the name of the author, right? The name of the scientist. So it might be much easier for you to describe it afterwards, okay? Especially just the relevance of this material to be shown. Okay.
Thank you very
And
much.
just another question which I have is like, what kind of transformation have you observed more, lexical, grammatical, or lexical, grammatical in the Caroline novel, or just mostly they are equally used?
As far as I remember, lexical grammatical transformations are used more commonly because the translators use full translation, and it's a lexical grammatical transformation. So they tend to use lexical grammatical transformations.
Thank you so very much. Dear participants, any questions? The difficult topic, I guess. No questions. Thank you so very much. And we wish you good luck in your studies.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are moving on to the next participant.
Hello, I suppose it's me, Mustafa.
Right.
May I demonstrate?
And Marina Ryabova.
Yeah,
Translation transformations. Of course, we're waiting for your demonstration. And just let me announce the topic you have. So translation transformations in the transmission of the author's editorial style and political texts based on Donald Trump and Joe Biden's speeches. A very interesting item within the political discourse. Okay, so just we are waiting for your topic to be presented.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to demonstrate it on my own. Do you see presentation?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, nice. So, good afternoon, dear participants of the conference. My name is Veronika Mustafaeva, and today I'm going to present my article. And the topic of my article is translation transformations in the transmission of the author's idea style in political text. And it's based on Donald Trump's and Joe Biden's speeches. So, and the relevance of my article is determined by their difficulties encountered in translating texts related usually to political communication, as well as the need to implement the adequate translation from the original language into the language of recipient. And the object of my article is texts of political communication in the media discourse of the English language media, namely the speeches of Donald Trump's and Joe Biden's for comparative analysis of idea style and transformations. And main material, I chose political articles from the English language media, such as The Guardian, The Times, Fox News, Foreign Policy, that contains fragments from speeches of this year's presidents and their translations in Russian. And first thing first. Oh, one moment. Next slide. So this, sorry, yeah. First thing first, I would like to tell you more about translation transformations. So these are methods of transforming the elements of original text to achieve the equivalence of translation and to maintain the equality of content, semantic, stylistic, and functional communicative information in the original and in the translation texts. And speakers usually use different phraseological units like aphorisms or idioms and other stylistic means in their speech for different reasons. And if we talk about politicians, they use it to convey their own views to the audience. And they often may use various types of psychological manipulations to achieve their goals, their interests, and so on. And thus, to translate all stylistic means of speaker and, of course, maintain adequacy, the translator or interpreter must use translation transformations in his work. And now it's time to talk about individual style, individual style. It may also called as idiostyle. So it is a specific system of speech means that author of text or speech here may use for specific purpose. So it may be manners of speech, stylistic means, idioms, and so on. And of course, translator needs to take it into account. So, and next we're going to practical part of my research, and we will look at translation transformations that I revealed in Donald Trump's speech. So in the first example, you can see tracing. This is lexical transformation, and it's used in underlined phrase. And also we can see here contextual translation. Since in Russian language, the word division is used like a scheme instead of the usual concept in English, but we need to make our speech, Donald Trump's speech here, more emotionally colored. So that's why we use such techniques. And in the second example, we can see here a mission. As the translator doesn't contain, translation doesn't contain the underlined phrase in Russian variant. So this phrase doesn't carry any semantic load, and similar phrases are often omitted in translation because they are just not typical for Russian language. And in the last example here, translator uses modulation. So it's maybe also like meaning extension, and he translates as purpose rather than destiny, simple destiny as we know, to invoke the emotional response from the audience. And then we are moving to Joe Biden's speech, and I found here following translation examples. So first one is related with compensation, because the word people as a peoplehood in Russian is added to show that not only will of the peoples, but also peoples themselves are listened to and heard. And there is also replacement of the category of number, because of the new world, it becomes necessary to replace the singular verb has been heard with the phrase have been heard in plural. And in the second example, translator uses generalization, and the word unity is not used in Russian translation. It's original meaning like in English, but it used as together and to make the sentence sounds more stylistic for Russian language. And last year, translator uses tracing to add more emotional coloring, and he cannot literally translate from the bottom of my heart because it will sound stylistically not correct for Russian context. And during my research, I have found more stylistic translation transformations and stylistic means in their speeches, and I made a conclusion that Donald Trump and Joe Biden use various stylistic means to attract the audience attention and to describe different events, objects. But to conduct a comparative analysis of such politicians, we need to discuss their idea style too. And of course, I have examples. And first is Donald Trump. In this example, he uses the word Democrat Party instead of Right Democratic Party, which is often used by Republican Party members to show disrespect for their opponents. And he emphasized this in last sentence of this example, and he explains why he will further use this particular expression. And then another example, here he uses positive lexical units to put his party in the right light. So he used such words like united, determined, to show the audience the unity of his party. That, of course, is determined to benefit of the country in general. And he also uses the phrases ready to welcome anyone who believes in the greatness of America. So to show the party's good attitude to all patriots of the country, and regardless their gender, race, or orientation. And after the given examples, we are going to discuss Joe Biden's idea style. And in the first, he talks about coronavirus pandemic, and he acts as a sincerely sympathetic person. He uses the phrase, "My heart goes out to each and every individual," to show his compassion for people who have been affected by coronavirus. And he regrets the loss of people during this pandemic. Then he has a phrase, "the families who are grieving lost loved ones." This is like extension of the first phrase, "my heart," of course, to also regret situation. And here in the last, Joe Biden calls to all citizens of the United States to unite for common goal, regardless of their belong to Democratic or to Republican parties. So we can see this with example, who doesn't see red and blue states, but the United States, and all states belong to the United States of America, and it doesn't matter are they red or blue. And in this way, he shows his friendly attitude even towards his opponent's party, so to everyone, because prosperity of the country is more important than the race between two parties. And finally, it came to the conclusion that during my research that political media text has special characteristics that translator, of course, needs to know. And we have a huge variety of translation transformations that may translator use in their work. And when I summarized all of examples, I can concluded that both politicians want prosperity for their country, and they act as powerful leaders who promised to lead their country to success, and of course to provide equal rights to everyone. However, it's obvious that Donald Trump is more aggressive towards his opponent party than Joe Biden, of course. But Donald Trump more often uses manipulative techniques in speeches to pursue his electors to his side, and Joe Biden tries to achieve the same results through compassion. And we can say that Joe Biden acts as a politician who emphasizes his citizens and not aggressive person. And of course, it's worth noting that in his speeches, Joe Biden used more formal vocabulary. Unlike Donald Trump, he prefers to use more colloquial words. And to my mind, this is to be closer to people just like this. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so very much. It's very interesting and
Thank you.
informative, because I'm really into your studies. I'm also interested in the political discourse. And just can you answer a few questions about your material of research? What kind of years have you taken to go through the political contexts? I mean, some debates or speeches specifically. Just what years have you managed to cover?
First thing first, I have chosen inauguration speeches. So first, it's Donald Trump's speech from 2016, and then it was his speech during election campaign in 2020, as the same for Joe Biden's speech, like this. And usually, I used inauguration speeches, of course, during this article, but I have a course paper from this topic too, and there I used more articles to find out more translation transformations.
Have you noticed any kind of difference throughout these years that maybe some changes may reveal in their rhetoric?
You mean Donald Trump's, right?
I mean Donald Trump, as far as just you've covered like 2 inauguration speeches.
To be honest, I haven't revealed this, but I suppose that maybe in 2020 he acts more aggressive towards Joe Biden, because to be honest, I haven't found any aggressive explanations and expressions to his opponent in 2016. But to be honest,
pretty accurate and cautious.
But I have not found any. It was not my object of research, maybe.
And just only your opinion. How do you think just whose speeches are more appealing and more influential on the public?
Oh, this is really difficult question. Because on the one hand, Donald Trump is more decisive person, and he acts towards his prosperity of country, and he talks a lot about its greatness, and yeah, it's may cause like sympathy of audience. But Joe Biden used more emphasis. So, to be honest, I don't know, but I think that should be Joe Biden because he focuses on people's problem, but not in general of country. And people sometimes are selfish and they think about their problems more than in general. So maybe Joe Biden's here.
I would also recommend you, if you haven't just covered this material yet, because not long ago we had our PhD student defended her PhD thesis here in connection with Joe Biden and Trump. Her name is Diana Kasimova. So maybe just you have covered her materials, her articles, scientific, maybe not. So that might be of an interest to you to also to search out there.
Thank you
some
so much.
additional materials here for you to cover. Do we have any more questions here for this research? No. Okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you
We were
too.
glad to hear you. Thank you. Okay, Darya Kozareva. The metaphorical language of Charles Dickens, translation language versions of the novella, A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. And just here we have the offline format. Daya, please come here. And just you may sit here in front of the computer as far as we have hybrid version for everyone to see you. Thank you so very much. Okay. I hope that with the presentation, everything's fine. Okay, now the demonstration of the screen, yeah, the slides. Okay, everything's fine here. So greetings, dear guests. Let me present to your attention my scientific research on the topic, the metaphorical language of Charles Dickens, translation transformations, and contextual interpretation in the Russian language versions of the novella A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a story of Christmas. The relevance of the topic is due to the lack of theoretical knowledge about metaphorical language, the absence of understanding by researchers and translators regarding the metaphor translation features, as well as the numerous details and complications in transferring metaphors from English to Russian. The objective of the research is to recognize how translation modifications influence the metaphor's interpretation. The methodological base of my study consists of the theories in the fields of linguistics and philosophy of such scientists as Rutunova, Searle, Black, Davidson, Kovacic, Gag, Legov, Johnson, Levin, Arnold, Sklerevskaya, and so on. The following methods and ways of the study were used in my research, such as contextual comparative linguistic analysis, method of classification, analogy, and generalization. The gained knowledge will enhance the understanding of linguistic techniques and the quality of translation, which has a positive impact on communication between various fields. As a result of my study, we identified 50 examples of metaphorical expressions, and 7 of which were classified, thoroughly analyzed. Thus, Rutunova distinguished a substantive metaphor, which has a common feature with some object, such as in the example, the use of the metaphor ferret's eyes indicates a low level of vision. Searle distinguished that metaphors that are obsolete. In this case, the example is not recognized such as metaphor, but we understand that it is about a small constitutional boy. Black distinguished in metaphorical expressions a focus where the accent belongs to and a frame which surrounds it. The air in this example is the main focus, as all attention is considered on it. The frame is the phantoms and their behavior. The next slide. Davidson contrasts the metaphor and simile, arguing that the basis of the metaphor is comparison. He called his approach the theory of elliptical simile. In the example, the author compares the character's face to a bad lobster, thus drawing a parallel due to the common features. Moreover, the prepositional like is essential part of this classification. Kovacic developed his own classification of outdated metaphors, calling them conventional metaphors. But in this case, they are recognized. At first glance at this sample, one might not notice that it is metaphor, but on detailed analysis, it is clear that the expression called became intense refers to emotional background and atmosphere. The last classification we considered was Gag's classification of complete and partial metaphors. In this case, it is an assumption of new meaning without a change in structure, as shown on the slides. Hearts freely is not meant literally, but acquires a new meaning as a complete metaphor. In the second case, the word is modified and similarly takes on a new meaning as shown in the tight-fisted example. The following slide shows the frequency of the metaphor usage in the research under material. Based on analysis, Black's classification prevails the most. It is conditioned by the fact that the many metaphorical expressions have the center of attention and what's around it. Rutinova's classification of substantive metaphors also dominates, as the metaphor is built on the basis of common features with one or another object. Next slide. In conclusion, it can be stated that the material on which research was conducted is full of metaphorical language. In the process of analysis, 50 examples were found, and 7 of which were analyzed in detail and translated by 2 variants of translation, Azirskaya and Dolgova. As a result of comparing the translations and observing that the translation differs, but not significantly, one gets the final point that each interpreter translation individually approached. In some cases, the emotion coloring was lost, and in some cases, the metaphors was omitted, which affects in interpretation of the metaphor. Next slide. My report is over. Thank you for your attention. I will be pleased to answer your questions within presentation.
So very much for your presentation. Can you try to explain why you've chosen such material for your research?
Thank you for your attention to my work. Frankly speaking, the metaphorical field is very interested for me because for me this language is more imaginative and creative. And I think that this theme was not have much attention as it could be.
So very much. As far as I know, you're advising your thesis of bachelor in connection also with this topic of Charles Dickens. How do you think the category which you have revealed as the major one, as the prevailing one of metaphors with focus and frame, is it just the feature of his idiom style? Will you be able to find the same metaphorical language in the other novel, or is it only connected with this one?
Sure, this category of metaphor could be found in other examples because, as I said earlier, that many metaphors expression have the center of attention and the what's around it. So I think that this category of metaphor will be in my thesis and in other examples.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any more questions to our participant? Okay, another question, please.
Daria, can you say when the study of metaphors began? And maybe you can add who was the founder of the series in this field?
Thank you for your question. The study of metaphor began as early as antiquity, and the founder of this field was Aristotle in 335 before the Christ. And he identified metaphors only such as a figure of speech, which adds expressiveness to the text.
Are you satisfied? Okay, any more questions? Yeah, thank you so very much, Daria.
Thank you. Let's move on further. Take a seat, please. And now moving forward. Maxim Tushin and Milana Krasotska, features of quasi-realia in the 2021 movie Dune. Okay, so just a second. So we're waiting for you. Sit down, please.
No.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, these people we have in the Russian language, right?
Да. Сегодня на русском?
На русском языке.
Да, готовились на русском. Здравствуйте. Сегодня мы поговорим о квазиреалиях в фильме «Дюна» 2021 года. Можно дальше. По поводу актуальности, ну, в первую очередь, это недавно вышедший фильм 2 года назад, а также анонсированное продолжение, что подогревает интерес к теме. Также квазиреалии представлены на нескольких языках, то есть они созданы на основе нескольких языков иностранных. Ну и квазиреалии до сих пор продолжают вызывать трудности в переводе, даже в наше время. Ну и целью будет анализ происхождения квазиреалий, использованных в фильме «Дюна». Дальше.
We have technical nuances. Just a second. Он не проецирует сюда. Пожалуйста, нажмите еще пуск и пин. Пуск. Вот это. Вот это. И не, одновременно.
И пи, да?
Вот это.
А вот это.
И одновременно. И вот это одновременно. И пи.
Пи, да? А, всё.
Нажимаем. Applicate.
Да.
I'm sorry. Technical problems. Так, сейчас всем должно быть, да, видно? Так, и у нас выведем это на экран. А здесь почему-то завершить. Так, почему у нас на экран-то не выводится? Секунду. Так, и еще раз. Вот она, наша презентация замечательная. Так, теперь видно?
Сейчас, да.
Так, и мы...
Третий.
О,
На третий.
Третий.
прекрасно.
Почему важно понимать происхождение квазиреалий? Потому что, в первую очередь, они создают отдельный вымышленный мир, в котором живут все персонажи и истории, и вы сами погружаетесь в этот мир, ну и хотелось бы понимать, что они значат. Благо, в книге «Дюна» уже есть целый глоссарий в конце, вот, если вдруг не читали. Да, в фильме они очень хорошо разжевываются в плане понимания, что они значат. Но также важно еще понимать, от какого языка они произошли, потому что в них может быть заложен более глубокий смысл, нежели просто поверхностное определение слова. Также понимание происхождения квазиреалий может помочь в адаптации их на, допустим, русский язык. Вот. И также... Да, это слайд, все, спасибо. Дальше. Вот как раз примеры из фильма. Это, например, слово «меланж», которое происходит от французского, то есть смесь. Также у этого слова есть синоним в фильме, это специя. И, ну, что самое интересное, как в романе, так и в фильме, слово «меланж» используют скорее в начале фильма, когда только туда приезжают, то есть это более такое заимствованное слово, то есть оно приходит явно из другого языка, нежели из местного, а вот именно местные жители зачастую используют именно слово «специя» или «спайс», то есть они именно его используют То есть в какой-то момент слово меланж пропадает из лексиконов книги и фильме. Дальше, спасибо. Слово шейхулут, которое будет звучать очень часто в фильме, происходит от... это, чтобы объяснить, это большой, огромный песчаный червь, ну, прям очень огромный песчаный червь, который живет на планете Аракис, как раз, куда они прибывают. И его также называют старик пустыни, старый отец вечности и прадед пустыни. Вот. В арабском языке есть как раз такие же слова, из которых состоит наш шей хулут. Это шай – вещь, и хулут – вечность или неприходящее. Вот. Скорее, тут, наверное, стоит взять именно перевод «вечность». И как раз у нас, как получается, старая вечная вещь пустыни, грубо говоря. То есть, да, старик пустыни. Дальше. Гомджабар. Интересное слово и интересная вещь в сюжете, потому что это, грубо говоря, отравленная игла, яд которой как бы убивает только животных. То есть оно является как проверкой на человечность человека. Да, на проверку человечности человека. Джабар может быть также вариантом слова джаббар, то есть которое в арабском языке означает могущественный или обладающий силой. А если, допустим, добавить к нему определенный артикль аль-джабар, то это уже будет именем Бога. То есть интересное значение, которое как раз придает вот этому оружию именно смысл того, что оно определяет, наделен ли ты какой-то силой как человек, или ты просто животное. Дальше. Ну и в заключение хочу сказать, что как бы квазиреалии фильмы произошли не только от арабского, но и от других европейских языков, как, например, французского. Присутствовало непосредственное использование лексики другого языка без каких-либо изменений. Так, например, вот, опять же, шейхулут и гомджабар, они просто автор взял непосредственно арабские слова, перенес их в контекст книги и дал им немного другое значение, нежели в оригинальном языке. Ну и квазиреалии, конечно, имеют очень много общего в значении, в изначальном значении, которое они используются в языке, и в значении, которые они представлены в книге и фильме. Всё, спасибо.
Так, ну и первый вопрос. Когда мы увидим Дюну у нас?
Да.
Когда выходит вторая часть?
Вторую часть, по-моему, анонсировали на 2024 год. То есть она должна где-то в 2024-2025 году выйти, это надо уточнить. Вот.
Так, второй вопрос. Как вы считаете, уже ближе, да, к вашему научному, скажем так, вашим научным изысканиям, почему так важно различные расы наделять языковой спецификой? То есть, как вы представили, да, аракис, например, у них присутствует арабский язык, да? Также мы видим, что у противников, да, присутствует, например, заимствование из французского, которые потом куда-то исчезают, да, и появляется все-таки чистый английский, да, те же spices. Как вы считаете, почему это важно? Зачем это необходимо внедрять в фильме?
Ну, именно если это брать целиком sci-fi тематику, то это, конечно, для того, чтобы разделить народы, чтобы присутствовало как бы... Для чего вообще нужны квазиреалии? Для того, чтобы как-то логично объяснить происходящее в вселенной, которую описывает автор. И как раз вот это вот разделение на разную лексику, то есть на разные как бы языковые моменты, позволяет как раз разделить то, что это два абсолютно разных народа. Местные жители Аракиса и приезжие, они даже используют разные слова для обозначения одних и тех же вещей. Ну и также, если брать это чисто в контексте Дюны, то прослеживается такая аналогия с реальным миром того, что Дюна — это очень большая метафора на наш Ближний Восток, и специя выступает там в роли нашей нефти, за которую охотятся постоянно западные страны, как, например, как раз приезжие из других уголков империи. Вот. А Аракис выступает именно Ближним Востоком, поэтому он и наделен именно арабской терминологией. Вот.
Подскажите, пожалуйста, а вот практическая значимость вашего исследования с точки зрения именно вот квазиреалий, насколько это актуально? Исследовать квазиреалии.
Квазиреалии, я считаю, будет актуально исследовать всегда, потому что с ними всегда очень много сложностей. Потому что они, вот, например, могут браться из арабского языка. Книга написана на английском, именно американским автором. И при переводе, например, на русский, английский уже как бы привычно переводить. А когда берутся слова, которые написаны английскими латиницей, но это арабские слова, уже появляются вопросы, нужно это переводить, не нужно это переводить, как это перевести, как это может транслитерировать или транскрибировать в язык. И поэтому их стоит изучать хотя бы для точности перевода и улучшения адаптации для, например, русского читателя и зрителя. Ну и изучение квазиреалий еще важно в контексте литературоведческого для раскрытия тех заложенных возможных смыслов в слова и текст, чтобы понимать более глубоко, что именно автор подразумевал, когда брал именно вот эти слова за основу, чтобы создать свои квазиреалии в книге.
Автор наделяет, например, определенные квазиреалии несколькими значениями.
Да, он можно наделять, вот, например, кстати, взять слово шейхулуд, а его используют и для того, чтобы обозначать непосредственно физически червя огромного, вот, которого чаще, кстати, называли в русском переводе делатель, вот, но также еще шейхулуд выступает как божество местное, божество пустыни, поэтому еще, да, то есть он еще и наделяет вот таким как бы. Почему он берет арабское? Потому что там очень много арабской культуры и религии, и чтобы наделить более религиозным подтекстом непосредственно червя, он называет его шейхулудом, создавая арабскую квазиреалию.
Спасибо. Так, я думаю, что у нас прекрасный выступление. Есть вопросы?
Нет. Я просто как понять квазиреалий могу сказать, что их довольно много в книге Шантара.
Согласна.
Потому что там и французский, и арабский, и хинди, и мартрахти, и другие, и урду тоже, и другие языки.
Да, расширяйте.
Нет,
Расширяйте свои исследования.
итальянский.
Спасибо.
Спасибо вам. Спасибо. Замечательный енот.
Okay, and the next participant we are calling on Valeria Kislova and Yana Alexandrovna Volkova, Features of Achieving Equivalence in the Translation of the Emotive Component and Political Figures, Public Speeches. Okay, so Valeria, do we have your presentation, right? Have you sent it? Valeria?
Yeah,
please.
hello. I'm just sharing it. Can you see it?
Okay. Yeah, we can see it. Thank you so very much. So I guess that you may start your speech. Huh? No, not yet. Not yet. I'm sorry. It takes some time.
Is it a problem in my computer or something's going on?
No, don't worry. Just we are trying to manage.
Okay.
We are trying to manage. Strong extent.
Very strong.
And it's now once again we should open it. Okay. Please open the presentation itself. Please try once again to share the screen with your presentation. Okay. Valeria?
Yes, just a second.
Here we are. We're able to
Okay,
see it.
fine.
Mhm.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of my article is features of achieving equivalence in the translation of the emotive component in political figures' public speeches. Nowadays, the researchers in the field of political discourse translation are especially relevant since the analysis of the speaker's personality is the main aspect of this sphere, and also political discourse implies high level of translation equivalence as any uncertainty can have great consequences. The purpose of the study is to identify the specific features of the equivalent translation of the emotive component in American politicians' public speeches, and also to identify a special emotionally colored vocabulary that affects the audience. In many studies, the concepts of emotiveness and emotionality are used and presented as identical, but we will stick to the approach of Viktor Ivanovich Shakhovsky, who considered emotiveness an instrument for the manifestations of emotions in speech communication. Within the framework of the study, speeches and addresses of Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump, as well as their translation into Russian, were analyzed. So we found out that Donald Trump, in his speeches, often turns to the concept of future, and in his interpretation, this future is going to be much better than the current situation. In the example on the slide, you can see that the metaphor used by him once again emphasizes this idea, but also implies that it is Donald Trump who will bring a better future to the country. And the translator did not change the metaphor, which ensured the achievement of the equivalence. In Barack Obama's speeches, there are a lot of ellipses and inversions. In the example given, you can see also a lot of metaphors. For example, metaphor deep in their bones is translated into Russian as a sad expression в глубине души, with the help of which the translator managed to achieve equivalence and also to convey the emotional component of the metaphor used in Barack Obama's speech. The metaphor doors of opportunity has been translated into Russian with the help of a loan translation or calque in order to preserve the construction of the original language and convey the speaker's message. However, another metaphor, a decent shot at life, that was translated into Russian as приличный шанс на жизнь, does not fully represent the semantic charge of the metaphor. The emotionality of a Biden's speech is manifested through simple sentences that are easily perceived by the audience. In this case, the translator used lexical transformation to achieve translation equivalence, for example, combining two sentences into one and replacing a complex sentence with a simple affirmative one. Morphological substitution of the adjective fragile with noun хрупкость and the omission of adjective precious were made to convey the emotiveness of the US president speech. As a result of this research, the following has been concluded. Despite the official character of their speeches and addresses, American politicians use a rather large arsenal of emotional means to influence the audience, both stylistic techniques and expressive adjectives, and they all often turns to the concept of faith, family, service, and the emotionality of politician statements is often expressed with the use of evaluative adjectives, sad expressions, and simple sentences that are easily perceived by the audience and thus can be simply memorized. And equivalence is achieved with the help of syntactic and lexical transformation, loan translation, transliteration, and descriptive translation method. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so very much for your presentation, for your research topic. Just a few questions. How do you think, what is the major difference in the public speeches of Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama? In their just manipulative rhetoric, let's say it this way.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, there is always some common idea standing behind their statements. They want to attract as much voters as possible, and also they often use these techniques in their inaugural speeches. But of course, there are some differences, and we should take into account their age also and their personal traits of character. So I think that Donald Trump is the most emotional among all these politicians who always try to manipulate the audience, trying to pressure or press on their feelings. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. And can you just describe the material of your research? What specifically have you taken? What speeches have you taken? Just maybe
sure.
what years?
I've used the Barack Obama inaugural address in 2008, I think, and also his speech after he won the election at that very year. Also, Donald Trump's inauguration speech in 2017, and Joe Biden's inaugural speech of 2021.
Thank you. And just how do you think, why is it so important to make a research of the emotive component in the political speeches?
I think it is necessary in order people to understand how politicians can manipulate their thoughts, their actions, people to realize how not to be, how not to believe them blindly.
Thank you. I guess we will wait for your other researchers to know these specifics. Yeah, not to be too blind. Not to be too blind. Thank you. Thank you. And we are moving forward, and we are close to the end of the section. So, Catherine Shatalova and Milana Krasotskaya, challenges of translating slang abbreviations in the English language. And just do we have the presentation? Do we have the presentation? So we're waiting for the presentation to be opened. And once again, the Russian language. Okay. We can't see the demonstration of the screen, Anastasia. Here we can't see it. Okay, but still it's not here. Okay, so we are moving here, and we once again demonstrate our screen. Now it will be visible for everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Начать хотелось бы с того, что проблема перевода сленговых аббревиатур английского языка – это довольно-таки популярная проблема, популярная тема для изучений, потому что в основном сейчас все англоговорящие, в основном подростки, конечно же, но сейчас сленг аббревиатурный начали внедрять и в повседневную жизнь, и в рабочие какие-то документы, письма и электронные сообщения. Поэтому я решила изучить аббревиатурный сленг. Как-то не тот слайд. Сленг, в первую очередь, это неформальные, нестандартные слова или словосочетания, которые употребляются в повседневной жизни, в переписках и так далее. Однако существуют проблемы переводчиков, которые не могут перевести по определенным причинам эти аббревиатуры, состоящие из заглавных букв 3, 4 и так далее. Цель, которую я перед собой поставила, это исследовать проблему, с которыми сталкиваются переводчики при переводе этих самых аббревиатур. Чтобы достичь этой цели, я определила основные проблемы и сложности при переводе и анализировала возможные стратегии и методы перевода сленговых аббревиатур. Следующее. На слайде вы можете увидеть основные проблемы, с которыми может столкнуться переводчик. И далее я про каждую расскажу. Можно следующее? Первая проблема, с которой столкнется переводчик, это проблема понимания контекста. Зачастую сленговые аббревиатуры имеют огромное множество различных значений, и всегда переводчику нужен контекст. Мы можем сказать все, что угодно, но нас могут не понять из-за того, что тот или иной человек подумал о другой вещи. Ты можешь его что-то спросить, а он не ответит тебе взаимностью, потому что подумает, что ты болен, а не, например, что у тебя много денег. Так аббревиатурой 7K описывается, что человек недавно получил зарплату. Следующий слайд. Также существует проблема эволюции сленга. Это то, как и почему меняется сленг. Еще буквально 10 лет назад говорили «how are you?», а, например, сейчас можно сказать это 2 буквами в переписке и даже в повседневной жизни, общаясь с другом или с подругой офлайн. Дальше. Следующая проблема – это проблема разницы в культурных и социальных нормах. Это основная проблема, это то, с чего строится вообще перевод, потому что зачастую переводчики не понимают либо значение этой аббревиатуры, либо то, как можно ее интерпретировать и внедрить на язык переводимого текста. Поэтому важно перед тем, чтобы переводить, это говорить с носителями языка, просматривать документацию и вообще, в основном, так как говорят на таком сленговом жаргонном языке, надо прослеживать социальные сети, смотреть популярные ТВ-шоу и так далее. Дальше. И одна из самых тоже таких main issue, можно сказать, что это проблема отсутствия аналога. Так как многие слова сейчас внедрены в русский язык, например, VIP, мы знаем, что это очень важный человек, это человек привилегированный, однако на самом деле немножко по-другому используется этот термин, например, для англоговорящих. Это все-таки не просто человек с огромным количеством денег, который может купить все и вся, это зачастую даже может быть обычный покупатель, просто частый. Дальше. В заключение хотелось бы сказать, что эта проблема сленговых аббревиатур будет всегда, потому что сленг остается, он меняется. Аббревиатуры, которые мы используем сейчас, может быть, через месяц, через 2 поменяют свое значение, выйдет какой-нибудь новый фильм, мы посмотрим его и поймем, что можно заменить, найти аналог и как бы поменять окраску того, о чем мы говорим.
Спасибо большое. По стандарту вопросы. Что послужило материалом вашего исследования? Ну вот конкретно, какие-то, может быть, именно соцсети, да?
Естественно, это популярные ТВ-каналы, это в первую очередь какие-то исследования каких-то переводчиков и, конечно, это социальные сети. Как ранее уже говорили мои коллеги, это Telegram, это это Twitter, это Instagram. Это даже просто общение с моими друзьями, которые живут там и общаются таким сленгом.
Как вы считаете, уместно было бы использовать сленг в науке?
Смотря какой сленг. Если разговорный, он же еще делится на виды, и, естественно, аббревиатуру, которую я использую с подругами или с родителями, или в школе, то, естественно, это неуместно использовать в науке. Однако, если это же какая-то научная аббревиатура, и тоже в науке это является сленгом, естественно, мы можем это использовать.
А на какие категории мы могли бы подразделить сленг? Или, возможно, вы знаете, как ученые их подразделяют?
Какой именно сленг? Сленг в целом?
В целом.
Если честно, мне кажется, это надо детально изучать, потому что я все-таки акцент ставила в своем исследовании направление перевода сленговых аббревиатур. А сленг – это очень обширная тема, которая требует детального изучения.
У нас еще вопросы есть.
Нет, я могу добавить, я слежу за разными родами художниками, диджитал-художниками. Я могу сказать, что мне довольно часто встречается сленг WIP, который переводится как Work in Progress.
Хорошо, спасибо вам большое. Спасибо. Я так понимаю, что это тоже будет, да, тема, скорее всего, вашей курсовой работы, верно? Нет. Чисто отдельно, да?
Да.
And the next participant we have is Sofia Arsenьeva, Екатерина Березина, Evelina Msu, and Kirill Alexandrov. The problem of neologisms, localizations, and the example of Zamyatin's dystopia novel We. Okay.
As you can see, there are 3 of us, so if it's possible, I'm responsible for,
Yeah, so the presentation, but just I wish you to be seen by our wonderful colleagues. Okay, no problem. So just a second. I don't quite like how we present our screen. Итак, у нас проблема, смотрите, у нас не должно быть дублирования здесь. Поэтому мы сейчас попробуем каким-то другим образом это сделать. Я не хочу, да, по-другому у нас запускаться. А до этого запускалось. Я все выключила, да? Нет. Так, слайд-шоу. Еще раз. Все равно дублируется. Вот. Отлично.
Скажите, пожалуйста, просто перелистывайте. Пожалуйста. Спасибо.
Пожалуйста.
Так. Вот сюда. So we are pleased to present the article, The Problem of Neologisms Localization, on the example of Zamyatin's dystopian novel We. In the contemporary world, translation facilitates getting acquainted with the key instances of world literature. Without a shadow of a doubt, hardly ever can any literary translation be entirely accurate unless enough attention is paid to the localization and adaptation. Sometimes a compromise must be reached between literal translation and full adaptation in order to preserve the meaning of the original text without distorting the idea or creating spurious associations along with equivocations.
It is the text of the dystopian genre that abounds with the author's neologisms and narrow terms in context of specific cultural realities that are particularly sophisticated for qualitative localization. The works of the dystopian genre invert the existing reality and thus
call for a set of specific vocabulary that would reflect the realities created by the author. When it comes to dystopias, it is impossible to overestimate the Latin's novel read, as it was the cornerstone of this genre and the first embodiment of the aforementioned principles.
The purpose of the article is to provide an alternative variant of translation of neologisms that would embrace peculiarities of the author's unique style while being easy to understand by people of different cultures and not causing any ambiguity. A wide range of extracts from the novel containing the words and collocations which can be attributed to the category of neologisms and their translations was chosen and intercompared.
In order to accomplish the goals of the article, the following methods were chosen: the analysis of scientific literature on the issue, lexical analysis of the selected neologisms, as well as comparative analysis of translations of extracts from the novel which contain neologisms.
The relevance of the article consists in the fact that localization is an indispensable aspect of translators' activity. It also helps people around the globe to get acquainted with the key instances of world literature, as it preserves the meaning of the original text. It is also worth mentioning that complexity of the study is enhanced by the fact that it is particularly complicated to transmit notions of Russian lingual culture to English-speaking readers due to the lack of works on the topic, especially when it comes to neologisms.
The word dystopia apparently first appeared in English describing an unhappy country. It usually describes two phenomena: real societies which stand in despotism, particularly the totalitarian regimes produced by Nazism and Stalinism, and the literary reflections of such developments.
The Cambridge Dictionary defines neologism as a new word or expression or a new meaning for an existing word. Neologism can either be created as a result of an unconscious process or be the result of a conscious action. They may be created to attract the reader's attention or for the sake of originality.
The proper localization of linguistic realia is crucial for the comprehensiveness of the book. Although the term localization has recently been increasingly used in relation to video games, its meaning is only partially the same as localization found in literary translation theory. Localization of literary text is the cultural and linguistic adaptation of a product for the target audience that will use this product. In case of dystopia, incorrect localization can damage the text.
First of all, the frequency of neologism in the original text should be clarified. For this purpose, an extract of the original text, which is the beginning of the novel, containing 4,000 words, was chosen. The following diagram shows the proportions of neologisms to other words. The results confirm that neologisms are frequent in the Latin's novel.
According to the results of the comparison, it can be concluded that most of the translations fulfill all the criteria of representativeness. However, they may include some semantic errors. The first example is the Latin word numerum was chosen since it's supposedly as close to modern English as the German word die Nummer to the Russian language of the 20th century, while seeming obsolete and not intrinsic in the modern English language.
Извините, а можно подвинуть окошко, чтобы всем было видно варианты перевода?
Да.
It's in here. It's in here. Okay. It's not disturbed online. However, just I don't know how to move it just right here. But online, everything's fine. Don't worry.
Okay. Translating number as number can be considered a serious omission, for it doesn't reflect the author's initial intention. The word is an essential one in the given context. Thus, it should stand out and draw the reader's attention.
I need to. Just a second. So it can be made in such a way. Unfortunately.
So the variant that was proposed is numerum. Given that the final version of numer is numerum, it was supposed that negative prefixation with in could contribute to creating an antonym while preserving conciseness.
According to the main character's description of their reality, Часовая скрижаль is somewhat of a reference to the Bible. Therefore, skryshal is an allusion to the biblical notion of tablet, sharing some of its characteristics. Neither of the given variations depicts this subtext. Furthermore, the word time could refer to the modern English word timetable, which is linked to the function of the word under discussion.
Supposing that the final variant is the state, it avoids ambiguity linked to the United States of America, unlike Zilberg's variant, and it also emphasizes the author's concept of the state's uniqueness, which is stipulated by the use of the definite article. The variant benefactor, which form was derived from Latin benefatio, meaning benefit someone, from bene, meaning good, plus fatio, meaning do and make. It's a literal translation of the roots of the Russian words, and it can be considered a relevant translation, for it corresponds exactly to the original text.
Through the comparative analysis of translations of a wide range of extracts from the novel containing neologisms, there were some discrepancies exposed concerning the translator's work. The conclusion can be drawn that there are certain impediments in the neologisms translation that nonplus even experienced translators. Surely, literary translation is not enough to fully interpret the peculiarities of the original text. The tendency can be traced that all of the neologisms require a profound study preceding the process of translation. Hence, the need for localization, which complies with detailed investigation and adaptation, cannot be denied.
Thank you so very much. Interestingly done. And just one question that I had about the alternative versions. Have you made it on your own, these alternative version of the possible translation?
These are our suggestions.
That's your suggestion?
Yes.
The one which you supposed to be better, right? We just supposed.
Supposed to be more accurate, to transmit the author's idea more accurate to the
and concisely. Okay, and you just also shown 3 possible versions of translation into the English language, as far as I understood, right? Which one do you suppose is the most accurate in those which already exist?
The most recent one, the modern one by Clarence.
And why do you suppose that it's more accurate?
It's one of the most modern versions. In the course of our analysis, we found out that Brown's translations are the most accurate, and sometimes we just agree with Brown's version of translation and не изобретаем велосипед.
Like in the case of benefactor, for example, we think this is the most accurate translation. It's the really just helps an English-speaking reader to understand the author's intention better.
And just as far as you've mentioned that in this novel, we have just a lot of numerous quantity of neologisms. How many did you estimate? How many did you find?
Well, we've mentioned the extract from the novel. It was 4,000 words. It's the beginning of the novel. So we found 120.
Just a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Will you continue to analyze this novel further on?
Probably we have some plans to analyze other types of authors' neologisms, probably, and probably some narrow terms.
So that's your future study. So we're waiting for you on our March conference. Okay, thank you so very much, girl. That was very interesting and deep, I may say. Thank you. And the last but not the least, the last but not the least, we have our participant, Arina Tukova, right? And Milana Krasotskaya, modern pseudo-Anglicism in the Russian language. Okay, that's the last participant of today's section. Please, you're welcome to start. But just the only thing I would like to correct, I don't know how to how to change the screen in such a way for everyone to see everything, because previously we didn't have such a problem, right? Здесь нету его.
Все пропало. Он может свернуть тут просто. Да. Ты свернуть нажать. Или что-то выдавить.
Ага. Ага. Now it's better. Okay. Yeah, let's start.
Hey, good afternoon, dear participants. So now I'm going to talk about modern pseudo-Anglicism in the Russian language. So nowadays, a huge number of people strive to learn as many foreign languages as possible in their lifetime. It is thanks to the ability to speak different languages that people have the opportunity to apply some words and phrases from one foreign language to the others. For example, words that have passed from English into Russian are called Anglicism. You can change the slide. But there are also words that only at the first glance seem to have passed over, when in fact they came from another language or already existed in it. That is why most people would hardly be able to distinguish a borrowed word from the former Russian one. Word loans occur due to the necessity to name the new inventions and realia previously absent in the original language. Modern pseudo-Anglicisms in Russian are a result of an attempt to use English words to denote fashionable and prestigious items, as well as the influence of social networks and globalization. However, they have been adopted incorrectly, not fit the linguistic standards, and disturb the linguistic culture and purity of the language. You can change the slide. Studying pseudo-Anglicism is relevant for understanding language dynamics, cultural exchange, translation, and cross-cultural communication. It offers valuable insights into how languages interact and adapt in a globalized world. In order to conduct the research, the following methods were applied: sampling of the examples, analysis of dictionary definitions, and etymological analysis. In my research, I used sampling of examples to illustrate and support my points. Then I had to use analysis of dictionary definitions as a way to provide a comprehensive understanding of key concepts that I explored. And additionally, I used etymological analysis to trace the origins and evolution of certain terms or concepts. Contemporary pseudo-Anglicisms are the words and expressions that attempt to imitate the English language, but actually are not proper English words. Usually, they belong to such fields as fashion, media, technology, and advertising. No, next. Since no jargon can exist by itself, language communication is one of the main factors of lingual development. The purpose of the study. This research is aimed at proving the hypothesis that a number of Anglicisms were unjustifiably introduced into the Russian language. In order to achieve it, the following tasks were set: to clarify the concept of pseudo-Anglicism and their types, to analyze some examples and explain why their use is unjustified. While the results, the most important means of human communication is the language, and the process of development a language comes into contact with other jargons and undergoes diverse changes. Pseudo-Anglicisms are sometimes used to give a text or statement a more modern or international look. However, in most cases, they lead to incorrect use of English words and create confusion. Here are some examples of modern pseudo-Anglicism. The first one is face control. It seems that this is a true English word from two nouns, like face and control. However, you won't find this word in the Oxford English Dictionary or Merriam-Webster dictionaries. And the second one is clip maker. It was seen that everything is obvious. To make is just to do, and a clip must be a clip. It turns out to be a specialist in creating video clips. Only clip rather translate as a fragment from a movie, and a music video as a music video. The next slide. Earlier it was said that changes in the language are reflected at all its levels. Now it's time to consider pseudo-Anglicisms from the point of view of their influence on the language. Well, the first one, lexical pseudo-Anglicism. These are words and expressions that pass off as English, but actually have a different origin. For example, the word business comes from French and means business. The second one is semantic pseudo-Anglicism. These are words that have similar meanings in English and Russian, but come from different roots. For example, the word manager in the Russian has a similar meaning to the English word manager, but has a different etymology.
And the last one, synthetic pseudo-Anglicization. These are constructions of sentences or expressions that are accepted in the Russian language but do not correspond to the English syntax. For example, the phrase "he made a check" replaces the correct translation of "he checked." And the other slide. Borrowing foreign words is one of the ways to develop a modern language. Anglicisms are often used to accurately convey information in specialized text. The main reason for borrowing from a foreign language vocabulary is the absence of the corresponding concept in the vocabulary of the Russian language and the need to name new subject concepts or realities. Borrowings are an integral part of the language development process and one of the main sources of vocabulary replenishment. Popular print publications confirm the fact that borrowings from the English language are widely represented in various spheres of modern Russian life. This made it possible to classify all detected borrowings into several groups. Anglicism in public and political life, like summit, is the meeting of heads of state. Anglicism in financial and economic life, like marketing, its market research and active impact on consumer demand. Anglicism in the fields of science and technology, like smartphone, a portable multifunction device. Anglicism sports, like tubing, a sports equipment in the form of an inflatable circle for skiing on snow slopes, and like Anglicism in everyday life, like trend. The next slide. Modern and pseudo-Anglicism in the Russian language are the result of the influence of the English language on Russian-speaking culture. Attempts to use words to denote fashionable and prestigious things and globalization. They can lead to the loss of linguistic culture and identity, as well as the creation of misunderstandings. In addition, pseudo-Anglicism can adoptedly be the cause of incorrect use of English words and expressions, as well as violations of the rules of the Russian language. It's important to remember about the correct use of language and avoid pseudo-Anglicism in order to preserve the richness and beauty of the Russian language and succeed in communication. To sum up, despite the fact that modern pseudo-Anglicism may sound fashionable and international, they often violate the rules of Russian grammar and can cause misunderstandings. Therefore, it is recommended to use native words or to look for more suitable expressions in Russian. And the last slide. Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation. Can you turn to the slide with the classification? And just we will be very pleased if you describe. Yeah, here we are. Whose scientist is this classification of? Have you relied upon some specific studies?
Oh, no, it's based like on many of them. I can't actually name all of them because I searched for like a lot of information in the internet. So yeah, like.
Is this kind of a generalization of many researches in one? So you've made up some kind of classification out of many researches?
Yeah.
I see. So just I would recommend you just for your future studies to take some specific classifications if you wish to combine them somehow. So you should try to explain how you do this, and at least maybe to put some authors of the classifications you have used, okay, or at least combined.
Yeah,
they will be like scientifically reliable information. And it would be great for the next time for you to think of the examples on the slides, okay? Because sometimes just orally, it's hard to perceive the information. That's why just when you put these examples on the slides, it's easier for the audience to perceive your information.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so very much. And that's all for today. That was the last participant. Thank you so very much to attend our section. We are grateful for you just to take part in this fifth section devoted to the translation and intercultural communication. Thank you so very much. And we're waiting for you in March to join also our next conference together with this one, which takes place annually in November. Thank you so very much. And we are finishing our session.
Thank you.
Thank you.